The Manhattan skyline loomed outside Nathan Walker's office window, a steel and glass monument to ambition that matched his own. His fingers drummed against the mahogany desk as he stared at the contract before him. Not a business merger or acquisition agreement, but a marriage arrangement that had haunted him for the past 3 years. "Mr. Walker, the board is waiting." His assistant's voice crackled through the intercom, a reminder that life wouldn't pause for his internal crisis. "Tell them 5 minutes," Nathan replied, his voice carrying the weight of authority that came naturally after years of commanding boardrooms. At 32, he'd built Walker Industries into a technology empire, but this document represented the one decision he couldn't control. Until now. He reached for his Mont Blanc pen, its weight familiar in his hand. The letter was brief but final. He would not honor the arranged marriage contract. His parents' old-world connections and their insistence on tradition had pushed him into this agreement 3 years ago, but he'd spent those years building his own path in Germany, far from their influence. The phone on his desk rang. His mother. Nathan let it go to voicemail, already knowing what she would say. The same words she'd been repeating since he announced his return to the States. "The Carter family has been more than patient. This union would secure both our families' futures." But Nathan had seen enough loveless marriages in his parents' social circle to know better. He'd watched his own parents live separate lives under the same roof, their relationship nothing more than a business arrangement with shared offspring. The thought of repeating that pattern with a woman he'd never met made his stomach turn. His decision to leave for Germany 3 years ago had been impulsive, perhaps even cowardly. But it had given him perspective. He'd built something of his own there, expanded the company beyond his father's vision, and discovered who he could be outside of family expectations. The intercom buzzed again. "Mr. Walker, they're asking." "I'm on my way." He cut off the reminder, standing and adjusting his tie in the reflection of the window. The city sprawled below, alive with possibility. And somewhere out there, Sophia Carter was living her life, hopefully relieved that he'd spared them both from a lifetime of obligation. Across town, in a sleek law office overlooking Central Park, Sophia Carter stood before her own window, though her view was of verdant trees rather than steel towers. At 30, she'd transformed herself from the society daughter her parents had raised into something entirely different, a force to be reckoned with in corporate law. "The Richardson case files are ready for your review," Charlotte, her paralegal, announced from the doorway. "And there's a new client request that just came in. It's interesting." Sophia turned, her tailored navy suit a stark contrast to the spring greenery outside. "Interesting how?" "It's from Walker Industries. They need someone to handle a personal contract dissolution." Charlotte paused, watching her boss carefully. "Should I pass it to another partner?" Sophia's heart skipped a beat, but her expression remained neutral, a skill perfected over years of courtroom battles. "No, I'll take it." Her voice was steady, professional. "Send me the details." After Charlotte left, Sophia allowed herself a moment of private reaction. Nathan Walker, the man who'd left her standing alone 3 years ago, facing the whispers and pitying glances of New York's elite. She'd never met him, never seen more than the occasional business photo in the financial press, but his actions had catalyzed her transformation from society bride to self-made woman. The rejection had been a gift, though it hadn't felt like one at the time. It had pushed her to finish law school, to excel, to prove that she was more than just a good match for someone else's son. Now, fate had handed her an opportunity she hadn't expected, the chance to face him as an equal, not as the woman he'd refused to marry. Her computer chimed with the case details. Sophia opened the file, her eyes scanning the preliminary information. Nathan Walker needed a lawyer to formally dissolve the marriage contract that tied their families together. The irony wasn't lost on her. He had no idea that he'd just hired his former fiancée to untangle the last threads of their arranged marriage. She could refuse the case, pass it to another lawyer, avoid reopening old wounds. But Sophia Carter hadn't built her reputation by taking the easy path. This was an opportunity to close this chapter of her life on her own terms. Her phone lit up with a text from her mother. "Darling, have you heard? Nathan Walker is back. In New York. Perhaps there's still a chance to salvage." Sophia deleted the message before finishing it. Her mother had never understood why she'd thrown herself into her career instead of finding another suitable match. The old crowd still whispered about her at charity galas and social functions, wondering why the Carter heiress chose to work for a living when she could be planning dinner parties and charity events. "Charlotte," she called, and her paralegal appeared instantly. "Set up a meeting with the Walker Industries representative. The sooner we can begin, the better." "Of course. Any particular time preference?" Sophia smiled, a slight curve of her lips that didn't quite reach her eyes. "Make it tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. sharp." She turned back to her window, her reflection overlaying the park beyond. It's time to put the past where it belongs. As the sun began to set over Manhattan, two people who had never met but whose lives were inextricably linked prepared for a meeting that would change everything. Neither knew that fate had finally decided to cash in on its long-held markers, bringing them together in a way that would challenge everything they thought they knew about love, duty, and the power of second chances. Nathan Walker would walk into her office tomorrow expecting a simple business transaction. Sophia Carter would greet him as a stranger, keeping her cards close until the right moment. And somewhere between their shared past and uncertain future, destiny was preparing to deal them both a hand neither could have anticipated. The stage was set for a reunion 3 years in the making, though only one of them knew it. Tomorrow would mark the beginning of either a spectacular collision or an extraordinary connection, perhaps both. 9 o'clock sharp. The morning sun streamed through the floor-to-ceiling windows of Sophia's office, casting long shadows across her polished desk. She adjusted the stack of papers before her for the third time, each movement precise and deliberate. The contract, their contract, sat in the center, its presence a quiet reminder of everything that had led to this moment. A knock at her door made her straighten. Charlotte's head appeared. "Mr. Walker is here." "Send him in." Sophia stood, smoothing her charcoal gray suit. She'd chosen it carefully, professional, powerful, nothing like the society debutante she'd once been groomed to be. Nathan Walker strode into her office with the confidence of a man accustomed to commanding rooms. His dark suit was impeccably tailored, his presence immediately filling the space. Sophia had seen his photos in business magazines, but they hadn't captured the intensity in his steel blue eyes or the way he carried himself, like someone who'd fought his way to the top rather than inherited his position. "Ms. Carter." He extended his hand, his grip firm and professional. "Thank you for taking this case on such short notice." Sophia met his gaze steadily, searching for any sign of recognition. There was none. "Please have a seat, Mr. Walker. I've reviewed the preliminary documents." He settled into the chair across from her desk, one leg crossed over the other in a casual display of ease. "I appreciate your discretion in this matter. It's a delicate situation. The dissolution of a marriage contract usually is." Sophia kept her voice neutral, professional, even one that was never fulfilled. Something flickered across his face. Regret? Irritation? It passed too quickly to read. "The contract should have been dissolved years ago. I've been handling business in Germany, and certain personal matters were delayed." 3 years is quite a delay. The words slipped out before she could stop them, carrying more weight than they should have. Nathan's eyes narrowed slightly. "You seem familiar with the details. It's my job to be thorough." Sophia opened the file between them, using the moment to collect herself. "The contract includes several intricate clauses regarding family, obligations, and business mergers. Dissolving it will require more than a simple signature. I was under the impression this would be straightforward." He leaned forward, his presence becoming more commanding. "The other party has moved on. There's no reason for complications." Sophia felt a spark of defiance. "Have you spoken with her recently?" "No." His response was clipped. "Our families arranged everything. We never met." And yet you're certain she's moved on? Nathan's jaw tightened. Ms. Carter, I chose you because your firm has a reputation for handling matters efficiently and discreetly. If you have concerns about taking this case, not at all. Sophia met his challenge with cool professionalism. I simply believe in understanding all aspects of a situation before proceeding. The lady in question might have her own stipulations about the dissolution. She's welcome to them. He stood abruptly, moving to the window. The morning light caught his profile, highlighting the tension in his shoulders. I'll double your usual fee if you can expedite this. This isn't about money, Mr. Walker. Sophia rose as well, moving to stand beside him. It's about doing things properly. The contract affects both families' business interests. We'll need to review everything thoroughly. He turned to face her, and for a moment, they stood too close. Something electric crackled in the space between them. Challenge, attraction, or perhaps both. Sophia caught a hint of his cologne, subtle and expensive, and forced herself to step back. How long? His voice had dropped lower, almost intimate in the quiet office. 2 weeks minimum. She returned to her desk, needing the barrier between them. We'll need to meet several times to go through all the details. I suggest we start with the business implications before moving to the personal clauses. Nathan studied her for a long moment, and Sophia felt the weight of his attention like a physical touch. You're not what I expected. Oh? She arched an eyebrow. And what did you expect, Mr. Walker? Someone more accommodating. A slight smile played at the corners of his mouth. Your reputation for being formidable appears well earned. I prefer thorough to formidable. Sophia began organizing the papers on her desk. My assistant will send you a schedule for our meetings. The sooner we begin, the sooner you can have your freedom. He caught the edge in her voice, his expression sharpening with interest. You disapprove. My approval isn't relevant. Sophia met his gaze directly. But since you ask, I believe if you're going to reject someone, you should at least have the courtesy to meet them first. The words hung between them, heavy with unspoken meaning. Nathan's expression shifted, something vulnerable breaking through his composed exterior for just a moment. Perhaps you're right. He moved toward the door, then paused. Though sometimes, Miss Carter, the kindest rejection is the one that comes before attachments can form. Sophia waited until her door closed behind him before sinking into her chair, her heart pounding. The meeting had gone exactly as she'd planned, yet nothing had prepared her for the reality of facing him. She'd expected to feel anger, vindication, or at least satisfaction at seeing him unknowingly reveal his thoughts to her. Instead, she felt unsettled. There was more to Nathan Walker than the cold businessman who'd rejected an arranged marriage. She'd seen glimpses of something else in their interaction, doubt, regret, and a complexity that didn't fit with the narrative she'd constructed over the past 3 years. Her intercom buzzed. Charlotte's voice came through. Do you want me to schedule those follow-up meetings with Mr. Walker? Sophia stared at the contract on her desk, the paper that had once represented her future, and now symbolized something entirely different. Yes, she said finally. Schedule them all. And Charlotte? Make sure they're all in-person meetings. Some things need to be handled face-to-face. As the morning sun climbed higher over Manhattan, Sophia Carter began to realize that closing this chapter of her life might be more complicated than she'd anticipated. Nathan Walker had walked into her office as a stranger and left as something else. What that something was, she wasn't quite ready to define. The game had begun, but the rules were already shifting, and Sophia wasn't sure if she was winning or losing. All she knew was that for the first time in 3 years, she felt truly alive. The conference room on the 32nd floor of Walker Industries felt more like an interrogation chamber than a meeting space. Sophia sat across from Nathan, their laptops open between them like shields, as they reviewed the intricate details of the marriage contract's business implications. These merger provisions are extensively detailed, Sophia noted, scrolling through the document. Your father and Mr. Carter clearly had grand plans for uniting the companies. Nathan's jaw tightened. My father's plans have always been comprehensive. He loosened his tie slightly, a rare crack in his usual perfect composure. But I'm more interested in building something on my own terms. Like your expansion in Germany? Sophia couldn't help but ask, watching his reaction carefully. You've done your research. His eyes met hers with newfound interest. Yes, 3 years there taught me more than a decade of following my father's playbook. The afternoon sun cast long shadows across the mahogany table, highlighting the tension in Nathan's shoulders as he leaned forward. There's something I don't understand, Ms. Carter. Why did you take this case? Your specialty is corporate law, not family contracts. Sometimes the two intersect. Sophia closed her laptop, choosing her words carefully. Besides, I find this particular case intriguing. Intriguing? His voice carried a hint of amusement. Most lawyers find it straightforward. A marriage contract that was never fulfilled, waiting to be dissolved. Nothing about this is straightforward, Mr. Walker. She stood, walking to the floor-to-ceiling windows. The city sprawled below, a maze of possibilities and missed connections. You left the country rather than go through with an arranged marriage. That speaks to something deeper than just business. Nathan joined her at the window, his reflection overlapping hers in the glass. You seem personally invested in my motivations. I'm invested in understanding my clients. She turned to face him, suddenly aware of how close they were standing. It helps me serve them better. His eyes searched hers, and for a moment, the professional veneer between them felt paper-thin. And what do you understand about me, Ms. Carter? That you're running from something. The words came out softer than she intended. Or perhaps toward something. A knock at the door broke the moment. Charlotte entered with a stack of files, her expression professional, but her eyes noting their proximity to each other. The Carter family's legal team sent over the additional documents you requested. Thank you, Charlotte. Sophia moved back to the table, grateful for the interruption. Mr. Walker, these should help clarify the financial implications of dissolving the contract. Nathan remained by the window for a moment longer, his expression thoughtful. When he finally returned to his seat, something had shifted in his demeanor. Tell me, Ms. Carter, have you ever had your life planned out for you? Every detail arranged by well-meaning family members who thought they knew best? The question hit too close to home. Sophia focused on organizing the new files, buying time to steady her voice. We all have expectations placed on us. The question is how we choose to respond to them. I chose to walk away. He picked up one of the documents, his fingers tracing the edge. Though sometimes I wonder if I should have at least met her first. Sophia Carter. Her name on his lips sent a shiver down her spine. Do you know anything about her? Only what's in the files. The lie tasted bitter. She seems to have done well for herself after the contract fell through. That's what I heard? Nathan's voice carried a note of genuine curiosity. She became a lawyer, apparently. Ironic, isn't it, that we might have crossed paths professionally if things had been different. If he only knew. Sophia forced a neutral smile. Life has a way of taking unexpected turns. Indeed. He stood, gathering his things. I have a board meeting, but I'd like to continue this discussion. Dinner, perhaps? Tonight? The invitation caught her off guard. Mr. Walker, I make it a policy not to socialize with clients. It would be a working dinner. His smile was disarming. The Union Club at 8? We can discuss the contract in a less formal setting. Warning bells rang in Sophia's mind. The Union Club was where their families had first arranged their marriage, though he couldn't know that. I don't think that would be appropriate. Professional boundaries? His tone was gently mocking. You're not like any lawyer I've worked with before, Ms. Carter. I'll take that as a compliment. She gathered her files, needing to end this conversation before it ventured into dangerous territory. We can continue tomorrow morning. 9 a.m., my office. As she walked toward the door, his voice stopped her. What are you afraid of, Ms. Carter? Sophia turned back, finding him watching her with an intensity that made her breath catch. "I'm not afraid, Mr. Walker. I'm cautious. There's a difference, is there?" He moved closer, close enough that she had to tilt her head back to maintain eye contact. "Because from where I stand, you seem to be fighting something, and I don't think it has anything to do with professional boundaries." The air between them crackled with unspoken tension. Sophia forced herself to step back, her hand finding the door handle. "9 a.m., Mr. Walker, don't be late." She walked out before he could respond, her heels clicking rapidly against the marble floor. In the elevator, she finally allowed herself to breathe, her reflection in the polished doors showing flushed cheeks and bright eyes. This was getting dangerous. Every meeting with Nathan made it harder to maintain her professional facade. She was starting to see glimpses of the man behind the decision that had changed her life, and those glimpses were threatening everything she thought she knew about him. Back in her office, Sophia found a message waiting from her mother. "Darling, I heard Nathan Walker was seen at your firm. Please tell me you're not handling his case, the history there." Sophia deleted the message without replying. History. If only her mother knew how present that history felt right now, sitting across a conference table from the man who had once been meant to be her husband, watching him unknowingly reveal pieces of himself to her. Tomorrow would be another test of her resolve, another morning of pretending to be just his lawyer, not the woman whose life he had inadvertently changed 3 years ago. Another day of fighting the growing realization that Nathan Walker was nothing like the cold, calculating man she had imagined him to be. And perhaps most dangerous of all, another day of pretending she wasn't starting to understand exactly why he had run from an arranged marriage. Because some things needed to be real, chosen, fought for. Some connections couldn't be arranged by well-meaning parents or written into contracts. They had to be discovered, like the electricity that sparked between them every time their eyes met, every time they stood too close, every time they pushed against those professional boundaries that felt increasingly like paper walls in a storm. Despite her protests about professional boundaries, Sophia found herself walking into Le Bernardin at 8 sharp. The restaurant had been a last-minute compromise, neutral territory. Unlike the Union Club with its weight of memories, Nathan had persisted, arguing that certain aspects of the contract required more detailed discussion than their morning meetings allowed. "Miss Carter?" His voice carried across the elegant space as she approached their table. Nathan stood, looking devastatingly handsome in a charcoal suit that spoke of old money and refined taste. "I wasn't sure you'd come." "This is still a business meeting, Mr. Walker." She took her seat, grateful for the sommelier's immediate appearance with the wine list. "Nothing more." "Of course." His smile suggested he didn't quite believe her. "Though I've noticed you have a tendency to keep people at arm's length. Professional necessity or personal preference?" Sophia accepted a glass of Bordeaux, using the moment to gather her thoughts. "Both. In my experience, maintaining distance provides clarity." "And what if clarity isn't what we need right now?" Nathan leaned forward, his voice dropping lower. "What if what we need is to understand the human element behind all these contracts and clauses?" The sommelier's discreet cough interrupted them. After they ordered, Sophia found herself studying Nathan's face in the intimate lighting. He looked tired, the kind of bone-deep exhaustion that came from carrying too many expectations for too long. "Tell me about Germany," she said suddenly, surprising herself as much as him. "What made you stay for 3 years?" Something flickered in his eyes, relief perhaps at the personal question. "Freedom. For the first time in my life, no one knew me as Richard Walker's son. I could build something without the weight of family legacy." "And the woman you were supposed to marry? Did you ever think about her?" Nathan's hand tightened around his wine glass. "More than I should have. I wondered if I'd done her a favor or if I'd been a coward. Running away isn't exactly something I'm proud of. Sometimes running away is running towards something else." The words escaped before she could stop them. Their appetizers arrived, providing a welcome distraction from the intensity of his gaze. As they ate, the conversation drifted to safer topics: business strategies, legal precedents, the changing landscape of corporate America, but underneath ran a current of something deeper, unspoken questions and half-formed answers. "There's something about you," Nathan said as their plates were cleared. "Something familiar that I can't quite place." Sophia's heart skipped a beat. "We move in similar circles, Mr. Walker. Perhaps we've crossed paths before." "No." He shook his head. "Slowly. This is different. When you look at me sometimes, it's like you're seeing past all the walls I've built. Like you know something about me that I don't even know myself." The waiter approached with their main courses, but a commotion at the entrance drew their attention. Richard Walker, Nathan's father, stood in the doorway, his commanding presence drawing every eye in the restaurant. Before Sophia could react, Nathan had grabbed her hand. "The private dining room," he muttered, leading her through a discreet side door. "My father can't see me here, not now." They found themselves in a dimly lit corridor, standing too close in the narrow space. Nathan hadn't released her hand, and Sophia could feel the warmth of his palm against hers, sending electricity up her arm. "Why are we hiding?" she whispered, though she knew the answer. Richard Walker would recognize her immediately. She'd spent countless dinners with her parents and the Walkers, planning a wedding that never happened.
"My father has been pressuring me to reconsider the marriage contract." Nathan's voice was low, urgent. "He doesn't understand that I can't marry someone I don't—" He broke off, suddenly aware of their proximity. In the dim light, his eyes searched her face.
"Why does this feel so complicated?" Sophia tried to step back, but the wall was behind her. "Mr. Walker." "Nathan," he corrected softly. "After hiding from my father in a restaurant corridor, I think we can use first names." "Nathan." His name felt dangerous on her tongue. "We should return to the table." "Should we?" His free hand came up to brush a strand of hair from her face, the gesture achingly gentle. "Or should we acknowledge whatever this is between us?" The moment stretched, fraught with possibility. Sophia could feel her carefully constructed walls crumbling. It would be so easy to lean forward, to let 3 years of anger and attraction culminate in this hidden moment. A burst of laughter from the main dining room broke the spell. Sophia pulled her hand free, reality crashing back. "We can't," she whispered. "This is exactly why I didn't want to have dinner. Lines are getting blurred." "Maybe they need to be blurred." Nathan's voice was rough with emotion. "Maybe that's the only way to figure out what's real." "Real?" Sophia couldn't help the bitter laugh. "You don't even know who I really am." Before he could respond, the door opened, revealing a startled waiter. "Sir, madam, your meals are getting cold." They returned to their table in loaded silence, the moment in the corridor hanging between them like an unfinished sentence. Richard Walker had been seated across the restaurant, his back to them, but his presence felt like a physical weight. "I should go." Sophia gathered her things, needing to escape before everything unraveled. This was a mistake. "Sophia." Nathan caught her wrist as she stood, the touch sending sparks through her skin. "Don't run away. Not when we're finally starting to see each other clearly." The irony of his words, his unknowing use of her first name, made her chest ache. "Some things are better left unclear, Nathan. Trust me on this." She walked out of Le Bernardin into the cool Manhattan night, her heels clicking against the pavement in a rhythm that matched her racing heart. Behind her, the weight of secrets and attraction and 3 years of unspoken words threatened to suffocate her. Tomorrow she would go back to being Ms. Carter, the efficient lawyer handling his case. Tonight she allowed herself one moment of weakness, letting the tears fall as she realized that maintaining professional boundaries wasn't going to be enough to protect her heart. Not when Nathan Walker was slowly dismantling every defense she'd built against him, without even knowing who she really was. Morning sunlight streamed through the windows of Sophia's apartment as she stared at her reflection, adjusting her silk blouse for the 3rd time. Dark circles under her eyes betrayed her sleepless night, spent replaying every moment from Lear. Bernardin, Nathan's touch, his words, the electricity between them in that dim corridor. Her phone buzzed with a message from Charlotte. Mr. Walker called. He's requesting to move this morning's meeting to his office. Something about new documentation from his father. Sophia's stomach tightened. After last night's near miss with Richard Walker, going to Walker Industries felt dangerous, but refusing would raise questions she couldn't answer. She typed back a quick agreement, then pressed her forehead against the cool glass of her bedroom window. "Get it together," she whispered to herself. "You're a professional." But professionalism felt increasingly like a shield made of paper, especially when she stepped into the elevator at Walker Industries an hour later. The same elevator where she'd fled from Nathan 2 days ago, her heart racing from their charged encounter. The doors opened to reveal Nathan himself, apparently heading out. He froze mid-step, then stepped back to let her enter. "Ms. Carter, I was just coming to find you." "Mr. Walker." She moved to the opposite corner, maintaining distance. In his tailored navy suit, he looked as though he'd slept as poorly as she had, his usual polish slightly fractured around the edges. He reached past her to press the button for his floor, his cologne, subtle and expensive, making her pulse quicken. "About last night." "We should focus on the contract," she cut him off, staring straight ahead at their reflections in the mirrored doors. "Your father's new documentation?" "My father?" Nathan's jaw tightened. "Yes. He's demanding a meeting with both families before allowing the dissolution to proceed. He still believes this merger is crucial for both companies." The elevator suddenly jerked to a stop between floors, the lights flickering before stabilizing at half power. Sophia's hand shot out to steady herself, accidentally grabbing Nathan's arm. "Perfect," he muttered, pulling out his phone. "No signal. Maintenance says it'll be at least 30 minutes before they can get us moving again." Sophia let go of his arm, as if burned, retreating to her corner. The small space felt even smaller in the dim emergency lighting, with nothing but silence and tension between them. "We can't keep doing this," Nathan said finally, loosening his tie. "This dance of avoiding what's happening. Nothing is happening." She gripped her briefcase tighter. "I'm your lawyer, helping dissolve a marriage contract." "Is that all?" He moved closer, his voice low. "Because last night in that corridor it felt like something else entirely. Last night was a mistake." The words felt hollow even as she said them. "We got caught up in the moment, hiding from your father. It wasn't just last night." Nathan ran a hand through his hair, disheveling it slightly. "Every meeting, every conversation, there's something here that doesn't make sense. The way you look at me sometimes, like you're waiting for me to realize something." Sophia's heart thundered in her chest. "You're imagining things." "Am I?" He stepped closer, forcing her to look up at him. "Then why do you know exactly how to challenge me? Why do you understand things about my family that I've never told you? Why does it feel like you're always one step ahead of me in this whole process?" "I told you I do my research." But her voice wavered and Nathan caught it. "No." His eyes narrowed. "It's more than that. Last night you said I don't know who you really are." "What did you mean?" The elevator lights flickered again, casting shadows across his face. Sophia closed her eyes, feeling everything spiraling out of control. "Nathan, please, say that again." Her eyes snapped open. "What?" "My name." His voice was rough. "The way you just said it, think I've heard it before, not last night, but somewhere." A memory flashed through Sophia's mind. A video message she'd sent to the Walkers 3 years ago, accepting the arrangement. She'd practiced saying his name for hours, wanting to sound perfect for her future in-laws. "The maintenance team is on their way up," she said desperately, checking her own phone. "We should review the new documentation before—" "Stop." Nathan's hand caught her wrist, gentle but firm. "Stop deflecting. Stop hiding behind legal documents and professional boundaries. Just stop." In the confined space of the elevator, with his touch burning through her skin and 3 years of secrets threatening to spill out, Sophia felt her carefully constructed walls beginning to crack. "You want to know who I am?" Her voice came out, barely above a whisper. "I'm the woman you left behind, the one you never met, never wanted to meet. I'm Sophia Carter, the real one. The words hung in the air between them like shattered glass. Nathan's hand fell away from her wrist as he stepped back, shock and recognition washing over his face in waves. That's not... You can't be... But I am. Now that the truth was out, the words wouldn't stop. 3 years ago, you chose freedom over duty. You ran to Germany rather than marry a stranger. That stranger was me. The elevator lurched back to life, lights blazing to full power, but neither of them moved. Nathan stared at her as if seeing her for the first time, pieces clicking into place. Her knowledge of his family, her bitter comments about rejection, her resistance to their growing attraction. All this time, he said hoarsely, you've been... The door slid open to reveal a maintenance crew and several concerned-looking employees. Sophia straightened her spine, stepping around Nathan with as much dignity as she could muster. I'll have my assistant reschedule today's meeting, she said, her professional mask sliding back into place despite the tremor in her voice. I think we both need time to process this. She walked away, her heels clicking against marble floors, feeling Nathan's gaze burning into her back. The secret was out, but instead of relief, all she felt was a crushing weight of uncertainty. Everything had changed in that elevator, and there was no going back to the careful balance they'd maintained. As she reached the lobby, her phone buzzed with a text from Nathan. We need to talk about this, really talk, please. Sophia stared at the message, tears threatening to spill. 3 years ago, she'd wanted nothing more than to meet Nathan Walker. Now she'd give anything to return to the safety of being just his lawyer, before complications like attraction and understanding had made everything impossibly complex. But some truths, once revealed, couldn't be hidden again. And in a stopped elevator 30 floors above Manhattan, their carefully constructed pretense had finally unraveled, leaving them both exposed to the consequences of choices made 3 years ago and feelings developed over the past week. The question was, what would they do with those truths now that they couldn't be denied? Nathan Walker stood in his penthouse office, Manhattan's skyline a blur beyond the windows as his mind replayed the elevator revelation on endless loop. Sophia Carter. The woman he'd refused to meet, the arrangement he'd fled from, she'd been right in front of him this whole time. His phone buzzed again, another message from his father. After 15 missed calls, Richard Walker had resorted to texts. The Carter girl is your lawyer? Do you have any idea what this means for our companies? With a controlled movement that betrayed his inner turmoil, Nathan hurled his phone onto the leather couch. The irony wasn't lost on him. He'd spent 3 years avoiding an arranged marriage only to find himself inexplicably drawn to the very woman he'd rejected. Mr. Walker? His assistant's voice crackled through the intercom. Your father is here. Before Nathan could respond, Richard Walker burst through the door, his presence filling the room with the same commanding energy that had dominated Nathan's childhood. Have you completely lost your mind? Richard demanded, closing the door behind him. Letting Sophia Carter handle this dissolution? The press will have a field day if this gets out. I didn't know. Nathan's voice was tight. She took the case without revealing who she was. Of course she did. Richard paced the office. The Carters were humiliated when you left. Now their daughter holds our family's reputation in her hands. She could destroy us with one press conference. She wouldn't do that. The defense came automatically, surprising them both. Richard stopped pacing, studying his son with narrow eyes. You've spent time with her, working closely on this case. A knowing look crossed his face. That's why you were at Le Bernardin last night. It was a business dinner. Was it? Richard's tone turned calculating. Perhaps this is an opportunity. If you and Sophia have developed a connection naturally... Stop. Nathan's voice cut through the air like steel. Don't turn this into another one of your business strategies. Everything is business, son. You of all people should understand that... Richard moved to the window, his reflection overlaying the city beyond. 3 years ago, we arranged a marriage that made perfect sense. You ran away. Now fate has brought you and Sophia together anyway. Don't you see? This is your chance to fix what you broke. Fix it? Nathan laughed bitterly. I lied to her face for days. She probably hates me. She took your case. Richard turned, his expression shrewd. Kept her identity secret. Spent time getting to know you. That doesn't sound like hatred to me. Across town, Sophia sat in her own office, staring at Nathan's unanswered text messages, each one more urgent than the last. We need to talk. Please let me explain. This changes everything. Sophia, don't shut me out. Charlotte knocked softly before entering. Your mother's on line 1. She says it's urgent. Of course it was. News traveled fast in their social circles. Tell her I'm in a meeting. Also, Charlotte hesitated. Mr. Walker, the elder Mr. Walker, called. He's requesting a meeting with your father to discuss the implications of recent developments. Sophia closed her eyes, feeling her carefully constructed world tilting on its axis. No meetings. Not with anyone named Walker. The firm's partners are also asking questions. They've heard rumors about your connection to the case. It's not a conflict of interest. Sophia's voice was sharp. I'm dissolving a contract that never took effect. There's no legal requirement for me to recuse myself. But even as she said the words, she knew this wasn't about legal requirements. This was about the way Nathan had looked at her in the elevator, recognition and betrayal warring in his eyes. About the electricity that had crackled between them before he knew who she was. About the fact that she'd fallen for the man who had once rejected her, only to lose him again the moment her secret came out. Her computer chimed with an email from Nathan. If you won't meet with me, at least read this. You deserve to know the truth about why I left 3 years ago. It wasn't about you. It was about fighting against a life others had planned for me. But now getting to know you these past days, seeing who you really are, everything's different. What I feel for you is real, Sophia. It's not arranged or planned or part of anyone's corporate strategy. Please, give me a chance to explain in person. Nathan. Sophia's hands trembled as she closed the email. The worst part wasn't the pain or the anger. It was the hope that fluttered in her chest, treacherous and unwanted. Her office door opened again, revealing her father. Benjamin Carter's expression was a mix of concern and calculation that reminded her too much of Richard Walker. The Walkers want to reopen negotiations, he said without preamble. Richard thinks we can salvage this situation, turn it into a positive narrative for both families. There's nothing to salvage. Sophia stood, needing to move, to breathe. Nathan and I, it's complicated now. More complicated than some corporate merger disguised as a marriage. Is it? Her father's voice softened. Because from what I hear, you two grew closer working together. Found something real, perhaps? Real? She whirled to face him. He didn't even know who I was. Everything that happened between us was built on a lie. Was it? Benjamin Carter moved to his daughter's side. Or did the lie finally let you both see each other clearly, without the weight of family expectations? Sophia stared out at the city, remembering every moment with Nathan, their charged discussions, the dinner at Le Bernardin, the way he'd looked at her in that dimly lit corridor. Had it all been real or just another illusion shattered by truth? Her phone buzzed with another message from Nathan. I'm downstairs, I know you don't want to see me, but please, 5 minutes, that's all I'm asking for. The choice stretched before her like a crossroads. She could hide behind professional walls, handle the dissolution through intermediaries, pretend the past week hadn't changed everything. Or she could face Nathan, face the truth, face the possibility that sometimes the heart found its way to what was meant to be, even when the mind tried to run from it. Tell the Walkers no meetings, she said finally to her father. Whatever happens between Nathan and me, it has to be our choice this time, not another arrangement. As her father left, Sophia picked up her phone, staring at Nathan's message. 3 years ago, he'd made a choice that changed both their lives. Now it was her turn to choose. Between protecting her heart and risking it all for something that might be real, might be worth fighting for. Her fingers moved across the screen. 5 minutes. But this time, we both need to tell the whole truth. The private garden atop Sophia's law firm building felt like neutral ground, a space away from the corporate battlefields of their family's empires. As the evening sun cast long shadows across the carefully maintained greenery, Sophia waited, her arms wrapped around herself against the spring chill. She heard his footsteps before she saw him. Nathan emerged from the elevator vestibule, his tie loosened, jacket discarded, looking more undone than she'd ever seen him. 5 minutes, she said, before he could speak. Make them count. I practiced this speech a dozen times on the way here. Nathan ran a hand through his already disheveled hair. But seeing you now, knowing who you are, everything I planned to say feels inadequate. Try the truth. Sophia's voice was steady, despite her racing heart. Start with why you really ran away 3 years ago. Because I was terrified. The admission seemed to surprise even him. Not of you, of becoming my father. Of letting my life be another carefully orchestrated chapter in the Walker family legacy. So you left without a word. She turned to face the sunset, the city sprawling golden beneath them. Do you know what that did to me? The whispers, the pitying looks, everyone wondering what was wrong with me that made you run. Sophia. He stepped closer, close enough that she could feel his presence like a physical force. I never meant to hurt you. But you did. She whirled to face him. And then, these past days, you made me feel. You made me want to trust. You again, all while having no idea who I really was. That's just it. Nathan's voice was rough with emotion. Getting to know you without the weight of our family's expectations, seeing your strength, your brilliance. I fell for the real you, Sophia. Not the arranged match, not the society daughter, you. And I fell for a lie. The words tasted bitter. I told myself I was just your lawyer, that the attraction between us was professional admiration. But deep down I wanted to prove that I was more than the woman you rejected, that I could make you want me without even knowing who I was. You did. He reached for her hand, and this time she didn't pull away. Every meeting, every conversation, you challenged me, saw through my defenses. I found myself looking forward to seeing you, dreading the day we'd finish dissolving that contract because it meant losing you. And now? Sophia looked up at him, vulnerability warring with caution in her eyes. Now that you know I'm the woman you ran from, now I thank whatever twist of fate brought you back into my life. His thumb traced circles on her palm, sending shivers up her arm. Because this, us getting to know each other on our own terms, this is how it should have been from the start. It's not that simple. She pulled her hand free, needing distance to think clearly. Our families are already plotting, trying to turn this into exactly what we both ran from. Your father called mine, talking about salvaging the situation. I don't care about their plans. Nathan followed her as she paced the garden path. The only thing I care about is what's real between us. Tell me you didn't feel it too, even before you knew who I was. Of course I felt it. The admission burst from her like a dam breaking. Why do you think I fought so hard against it? Every time you looked at me, every time we got too close, I knew I was falling for the man who broke my heart once already. I'm not that man anymore. He caught her arm, turning her to face him. And you're not the woman I was arranged to marry. We're different people now, stronger people. Whatever this is between us, it's ours, not our families. The last rays of sunlight caught his face, highlighting the earnestness in his expression. Sophia felt her carefully constructed walls beginning to crumble. I can't go through it again, she whispered. Being left behind, watching you walk away? Then don't let me. His hand cupped her cheek, thumb brushing away a tear she hadn't realized had fallen. Fight for this with me, Sophia. Not because it was arranged, but because we choose it. Because against all odds we found our way back to each other. And our families, the contract, the merger. Let me handle my father. His voice was firm. As for the contract, we'll dissolve it. Start fresh on our terms. No arrangements, no corporate mergers disguised as marriage, just us, figuring out what this could be. The garden had grown darker, city lights twinkling to life below them. Sophia looked up at Nathan, seeing not the man who had run from an arranged marriage but the one who had captivated her these past days, passionate, complex, willing to fight for what he believed in. 5 minutes are up, she said softly. Send me away then. But his hand remained on her cheek, his eyes searching hers. Tell me you don't want to explore what's between us and I'll walk away right now. Instead of answering, Sophia rose on her tiptoes and pressed her lips to his. The kiss was gentle at first, a question more than a demand. Then Nathan's arms wrapped around her, pulling her closer, and the kiss deepened into something that felt like coming home and stepping off a cliff all at once. When they finally broke apart, both breathless, Nathan rested his forehead against hers. Is that a yes? It's a maybe. But she was smiling, her hands still gripping his shirt. A maybe that depends on you proving this is real, that you won't run again when things get complicated. I'll prove it every day. He brushed another soft kiss against her lips. Starting with telling our families that whatever happens between us is our choice, not theirs. A cool breeze swept across the garden, making Sophia shiver. Nathan shrugged out of his suit jacket, wrapping it around her shoulders in a gesture that felt both protective and possessive. We should go inside, she said, though she made no move to step away from him. People will talk. Let them. His smile was both challenging and tender. I'm done hiding from what I want, Sophia. The question is, are you? Looking up at him in the gathering dusk, wrapped in his jacket and the warmth of his embrace, Sophia felt the last of her defenses crumble. 3 years ago they had been strangers forced together by family obligation. Now they were two people who had found their way to each other despite every obstacle, or perhaps because of them. No more hiding, she agreed, lacing her fingers. Through his. But we do this our way. No contracts, no arrangements, just us seeing where this leads. As they walked back toward the elevator, hands linked and hearts racing with possibility, both knew that this was just the beginning. There would be battles ahead, with their families, with their own fears, with the expectations of their world. But for the first time, they would face them together, not as an arranged match, but as two people who had chosen each other against all odds. The elevator doors closed on them, but this time, instead of tension and secrets, the small space was filled with promise. They had 5 floors to descend, but their journey together was just beginning. The headlines hit the next morning like a thunderclap. Walker-Carter merger back on. Sources confirm romantic involvement between heirs. Arranged marriage turns love match. Business world's most eligible CEO finds love with former fiancé. Corporate dynasty. Romance. Nathan Walker and Sophia Carter spotted in intimate embrace. Sophia's phone hadn't stopped buzzing since dawn. She sat in her home office, scanning the news articles while Nathan paced behind her, his tie abandoned, shirt sleeves rolled up to his elbows. The Wall Street Journal piece is the worst, he muttered, running a hand through his hair. They're calling it a calculated reconciliation, designed to stabilize both companies' stock prices. Page 6 has photos. Sophia clicked through the images, grainy shots of their kiss in the rooftop garden, clearly taken with a long-range lens. Someone must have tipped off the photographers. Nathan stopped pacing, his expression darkening. My father. He's the only one who knew I was heading to your office last night. As if summoned by his words, both their phones chimed simultaneously with the same message, an invitation to an emergency board meeting at Walker Industries, scheduled for noon. They're moving fast. Sophia closed her laptop, turning to face Nathan. Your father and mine are probably already planning the press strategy, trying to spin this their way. Let them try. Nathan moved behind her chair, his hands settling on her shoulders. We knew this was coming. The question is, are you ready for what happens next? Before she could answer, her office phone lit up with an internal call. Ms. Carter, The managing partners are requesting an immediate meeting regarding your involvement in the Walker case. Sophia pressed the intercom. Tell them I'll be there in 20 minutes. She looked up at Nathan, worry creasing her brow. They're going to ask me to recuse myself. Maybe that's not a bad thing. His thumbs worked small circles into her tense muscles. It would give us freedom to pursue this without professional complications. This isn't just about us anymore. She stood, needing to move. The media attention, the speculation about the companies. We've given our families exactly what they wanted. A way to revive their merger plans with a romantic spin. Nathan caught her hand as she paced past him. Hey, look at me. He waited until she met his eyes. What they want doesn't matter. This is our story, not theirs. Is it? She gestured at her phone, still buzzing with notifications, because right now it feels like we're characters in their corporate fairy tale. The prodigal son returns, falls for his intended bride, unites the family empires. Then let's change the narrative. Nathan pulled her closer, his voice dropping to that intimate tone that made her heart race. We'll face the board meeting together. Tell them exactly how this is going to work. And how is that? First, we dissolve the original contract completely. Make it clear that any merger discussions are off the table. His hands framed her face, thumbs brushing her cheeks. Then we tell them that our personal relationship is separate from business. No arranged marriages, no corporate strategies disguised as romance. A knock at her door interrupted them. Charlotte stood in the doorway, her expression apologetic. Ms. Carter, your father is here, and your mother is with him. Sophia's mother swept into the office before Charlotte finished speaking, elegant as ever in Chanel and pearls. Her eyes widened at the sight of Nathan's hands on her daughter's face. Well, Victoria Carter said, smoothing her already perfect hair, I see the rumors are true. Nathan, darling, you've grown even more handsome since we last saw you. Mrs. Carter. Nathan stepped back, but kept one hand linked with Sophia's. Mr. Carter, I assume you're here about the board meeting. Benjamin Carter closed the office door, his expression calculating. The media attention creates certain opportunities. Both boards are eager to revisit the merger discussion, especially given this organic development between you two. Organic? Sophia's laugh held no humor. There's nothing organic about leaked photos and orchestrated press coverage. Darling, her mother cut in, sometimes fate needs a little help. You and Nathan have found your way back to each other. Isn't that what matters? What matters, Nathan's voice was steel wrapped in silk, is that Sophia and I make our own choices, without manipulation or corporate agenda. Victoria waved a dismissive hand. No one is manipulating anything. But surely you see how perfect this is. The timing, the publicity. It's as if the universe itself wants. The universe doesn't want anything, Sophia interrupted. And neither does fate. Nathan and I. She squeezed his hand, drawing strength from his presence. What we have is real, and we won't let it be turned into a business strategy. The boards won't accept that. Benjamin Carter's tone was matter-of-fact. The market is already responding to the possibility of a merger. Walker Industries' stock is up 12 points since the news broke. Then the boards will have to disappoint. Nathan's free hand slipped around Sophia's waist, a gesture both protective and defiant. Because we're not playing this game. Victoria's eyes narrowed at their united front. You're being naive. Both of you. This isn't just about your romance. It's about legacy. About building something lasting. We are building something lasting. Sophia's voice rang with conviction. But it's ours to build, not yours to arrange. Another knock at the door revealed Charlotte again. I'm sorry, but the managing partners are waiting. And Mr. Walker, your father's car just pulled up to the building. The morning sun streamed through the windows, catching the diamond tennis bracelet on Victoria Carter's wrist and sending prisms dancing across the walls. For a moment, the office was silent except for the distant hum of traffic and the persistent buzz of their phones. The board meeting is in 2 hours, Benjamin Carter said finally. I suggest you both consider carefully what you're going to say.
This could be the opportunity of a lifetime or the biggest mistake of your careers. After her parents left, Sophia turned in Nathan's arms, pressing her forehead against his chest.
Ready for war? With you by my side? He kissed her temple softly. I'm ready for anything. As they separated to face their respective meetings, both knew that the real battle was just beginning. Their families had spent years planning a corporate merger disguised as a marriage. Now they had to prove that their love was strong enough to exist without it, that sometimes the best business decision was choosing happiness over empire. The storm was rising, but at least they would weather it together. The Walker Industries. Boardroom hummed with tension. Sunlight reflected off the glass table where 20 board members sat, their expressions a mix of calculation and anticipation. Richard Walker stood at the head of the table, commanding attention as he always had. Today's emergency meeting, he announced, addresses recent developments between Walker Industries and Carter International. As you've no doubt seen in the media, my son Nathan and Sophia Carter have rekindled their relationship, opening new possibilities for the merger we've long envisioned. Nathan and Sophia sat side by side halfway down the table, their hands linked beneath its polished surface. They had arrived together, a united front against the storm they knew was coming. Before we continue, Nathan's voice cut through, the murmurs of approval. Sophia and I have something to say. Richard's smile tightened. Perhaps we should first review the potential synergies. No? Nathan stood, his presence drawing every eye. We've let you control the narrative long enough, both of you. His gaze swept from his father to Benjamin Carter, who sat opposite Richard. It's time for the truth. Sophia rose beside him, her shoulder brushing his in silent support. The diamond pendant at her throat caught the light, a gift from her mother this morning, another attempt to script their reconciliation into the perfect society story. 3 years ago, Nathan continued, I ran from an arranged marriage because I refused to let my life be another business transaction. It was cowardly and it hurt people I had never met. His fingers tightened around Sophia's. Especially you. Whispers rippled through the room. This wasn't the scripted presentation the board had expected. But fate, Sophia took over, her voice clear and strong, had other plans. When Nathan walked into my office as a client, neither of us knew who the other was. What grew between us was real. No arrangements, no corporate strategy, just two people connecting despite their best efforts not to. How romantic. Richard's tone dripped sarcasm. But business isn't about romance. The market responds to strategic alliances, not love stories. That's where you're wrong, Dad. Nathan's voice hardened. Business is about building something meaningful, something that lasts, just like love. Benjamin Carter leaned forward. No one is denying your feelings. We're simply suggesting that personal happiness and corporate success can align perfectly here. By using our relationship to manipulate stock prices? Sophia's question cut like a blade. By leaking photos to create market speculation? That's not alignment, that's exploitation. You're being dramatic, Victoria Carter spoke from her seat near Benjamin. We're trying to help you. No. Nathan's interruption was firm. You're trying to control us, just like you always have. But here's what's going to happen instead. He pulled a document from his briefcase, sliding it across the table to Richard. First, the original marriage contract will be dissolved, completely and irrevocably. Nathan, Richard's warning was clear in his tone. Second, Sophia continued, producing her own document. I'm recusing myself from all legal matters involving Walker Industries. My firm's ethics committee agrees it's the appropriate step. And third, Nathan's voice filled the room. There will be no merger discussions. Not now, not in the future. Walker Industries and Carter International will remain separate entities. The boardroom erupted in objections. Richard slammed his hand on the table. You can't make that decision unilaterally. Actually, I can. Nathan's smile was sharp. While I was in Germany, I acquired enough voting shares to block any merger attempt. I've spent 3 years preparing for this moment. Benjamin Carter's face reddened. You've been planning this? No, Sophia answered, squeezing Nathan's hand. He's been protecting his right to choose, just like I have. She produced another document, sliding it to her father. My trust fund shares in Carter International are now in an independent voting trust. Neither of you can use them to force a merger. Victoria's perfectly manicured hand flew to her throat. Sophia, darling, you can't. I can and I have. Sophia's voice softened. Mom, Dad, I love you, but I love Nathan too. And we deserve the chance to build something real without corporate strings attached. The silence that followed was deafening. Richard Walker stared at his son with a mixture of fury and, perhaps, grudging respect. Benjamin Carter studied the document. Before him, his expression unreadable. The press is waiting for an announcement, one board member ventured. The market expects. The press will get their story, Nathan assured them. But it won't be about a merger. It will be about 2 companies choosing to remain independent and 2 people choosing to be together on their own terms. Sophia stepped closer to him, their shoulders touching. Our relationship isn't a business transaction. It's not about market share or stock prices. It's about 2 people who found each other despite every obstacle their families put in their way. And if you try to force this merger, Nathan's tone left no room for argument. I'll take Walker Industries private. I have the financing lined up. Richard's face paled. You wouldn't dare. Try me. Nathan met his father's gaze steadily. I learned from the best, Dad. You taught me to fight for what matters. He looked at Sophia, his eyes softening. She matters more than any merger. The boardroom fell silent again, the weight of their declaration hanging in the air. Outside, rain had begun to fall, drops pattering against the floor-to-ceiling windows like nature's own accompaniment to the drama unfolding within. Finally, Richard Walker squared his shoulders. The board will need to discuss these developments in private. Of course, Nathan nodded. But understand this, our decision is final. Whatever happiness Sophia and I find together will be separate from business. That's non-negotiable. As they walked toward the door, Sophia paused. Mom, Dad, I hope someday you'll understand. Love isn't a corporate asset. It's not something you can arrange or manipulate or merge. It's something you have to let grow on its own. The door closed behind them with a soft click, leaving the boardroom in stunned silence. In the elevator, Sophia finally let out the breath she'd been holding. Well, she said, looking up at Nathan. I think that went better than expected. No one actually had a heart attack. Nathan pulled her close, pressing a kiss to her forehead. They'll fight back. You know that, right? Let them try. Sophia's smile was both tender and determined. We've faced worse. At least now we're facing it together. As the elevator descended, carrying them away from the corporate battlefield above, both knew that this was just the first skirmish in a longer war. Their families wouldn't give up easily on their merger dreams. But for the first time, Nathan and Sophia had chosen their own path, not the one arranged for them, but the one they had found together. The rain outside had intensified, but neither of them minded. They had weathered harder storms to find each other. Whatever came next, they would face it as they had faced the board, together, stronger for the battles they had already won, and ready for whatever challenges lay ahead. 6 months later, sunset painted the Hampton sky in shades of gold and pink. Sophia stood on the beach behind her family's summer house, waves lapping at her bare feet as she watched Nathan approach along the shoreline. He'd loosened his tie, jacket slung over one shoulder, looking more relaxed than she'd seen him in months. Your father's looking for you, he said, reaching for her hand. Something about the benefit dinner tonight. Let him look. Sophia leaned into his embrace, breathing in the mixture of his cologne and the salt air. I needed a moment away from all the planning. The past 6 months had been a whirlwind of change. True to their word, they'd kept their personal and professional lives strictly separate. Walker Industries and Carter International remained independent, though rumors of a merger still surfaced occasionally in the financial press. Did you see the latest Wall Street Journal article? Nathan's thumb traced circles on her palm. Corporate dynasty's failed merger leads to record profits. Your father must be thrilled. Surprisingly, he is. Sophia smiled against Nathan's chest. Success has a way of changing perspectives, though Mom still hints about wedding plans every chance she gets. Speaking of which, Nathan pulled away slightly, reaching into his pocket. There's something I've been wanting to ask you. Sophia's heart skipped a beat as he dropped to one knee in the sand. The setting sun caught the diamond ring he held, sending prismatic light dancing across their faces. Wait, she whispered, though every fiber of her being wanted to say yes immediately. Are you sure? After everything our families put us through with the first engagement. That's exactly why I'm sure. His eyes held hers, intense and sincere. That was an arrangement. This is a choice, my choice. To love you, to build a life with you, to face whatever comes next together. Tears blurred Sophia's vision. Even if our families try to turn it into another corporate strategy, let them try. Nathan's free hand caught hers. We've proven we're stronger than their manipulation. This isn't about mergers or dynasties, or family expectations. This is about us. A wave crashed nearby, sending spray glittering in the fading light. In the distance, they could hear the sounds of the benefit dinner being set up, their family's annual Hampton Charity Gala, where they'd once been meant to announce their arranged engagement. The press will have a field day, Sophia said, but she was smiling. They'll call it destiny or fate, or they can call it whatever they want. Nathan stood, still holding her hand. We know the truth. We chose this, chose each other, not because it was arranged, but because what we found together is real. Sophia looked up at him, remembering everything that had led them here. The pain of his rejection 3 years ago, the spark of connection when he walked into her office not knowing who she was, the gradual falling in love that had surprised them both. Every step, every challenge, every moment of choosing each other over family expectations had brought them to this beach, this sunset, this question. Yes, she said finally, letting joy bubble up through her tears. Yes, I'll marry you, not because anyone arranged it, but because I love you. The ring slid onto her finger, a perfect fit. Nathan pulled her close, his kiss tasting of salt air and promise. When they finally broke apart, the sun had dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in deeper shades of purple and gold. We should head back, Sophia murmured, though she made no move to leave his embrace. They'll be missing us at the benefit. Let them miss us. Nathan's smile held a hint of mischief. We could just stay here, announce our engagement our own way tomorrow. As if on cue, a camera flash went off in the distance. They turned to see Victoria Carter hurrying away, professional photographer in tow. Mom, Sophia called out, laughing despite herself. Really? Victoria turned back, not looking remotely ashamed. Darling, the lighting was perfect, and you'll want to remember this moment exactly as it was. Nathan chuckled against Sophia's hair. At least she waited until after I proposed this time. They walked back toward the house hand in hand, the ring catching the last rays of sunlight. Music drifted down from the terrace where New York's elite gathered for the annual gala. Soon they would join them, face the congratulations and the inevitable business questions, the speculation about what their engagement meant for the companies. But for now, they took the long way around, walking slowly along the water's edge. Their footprints in the sand told a different story than the one their families had tried to write. Not of arranged marriages and corporate mergers, but of two people who had found their way back to each other against all odds. You know they'll never stop trying, Sophia said softly. The merger plans, the business strategies. Let them scheme. Nathan pulled her close as they walked. We've got something better than their corporate empire. What's that? A love story we wrote ourselves. He smiled down at her. Every chapter, every plot twist, every moment of choosing each other over their plans, it's ours. And the next chapters? We'll write those together too. As they climbed the steps to the terrace, the sounds of the gala growing louder, Sophia squeezed Nathan's hand. Whatever came next, family pressure, media speculation, business complications, they would face it together. Not as pawns in their family's games, but as partners who had fought for the right to choose their own path. The ring on her finger wasn't a business contract or a merger agreement. It was a promise. To love freely. To choose each other, every day, to write their own story despite what anyone else had planned. In the end, that was worth more than any corporate empire their families could have built. Their love story hadn't been arranged or orchestrated. It had grown wild and beautiful, breaking through every barrier their families erected, proving that sometimes the heart found its way home, even when the mind tried to run from it. And now, with the stars beginning to emerge above the Hampton shoreline, they were ready to begin their next chapter, together on their own terms, choosing love over legacy every step of the way. If you were in Sophia's place, would you keep your identity a secret when you met Nathan again? Why do you think she chose to hide who she was, even though she was beginning to fall in love with him? Share your opinion on this emotional dilemma. Leave your opinion in the comments. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the story, please subscribe to our channel and leave a comment below letting us know what you thought. Your feedback and support mean a lot to us. Stay tuned for more exciting stories.